Today, at 58 years old, I can say I've lived long enough to understand that not every silence is empty. Some silences carry weight. Others hold murmurs we try to ignore. And there are those that simply observe. When people ask me what I've done with my life, I answer without sugarcoating. I was a cemetery caretaker. And always, someone laughs as if it were a joke or an exaggeration. But those who know me understand that certain professions don't choose us by accident. Being a cemetery caretaker is living face to face with what's left of the world. It is being guardian of a boundary from which no one returns the same way they went. My name is Angelo Ribeiro, born in Sao Veridiamo, a little town wedged between hills that seem to watch whoever comes and goes. It's the kind of place where the wind arrives before the news, and gossip arrives before the people. I grew up there, among narrow streets and neighbors who call your name before you even turn the corner. And despite everything, despite having seen more farewells than embraces, I never imagined I would one day have to deal with something that doesn't merely use the night, but creates it. Everything began on a heavy, humid afternoon, with a sky so gray it looked like it wounded the horizon. We were burying Lourdes Marcal, a woman long known as the one with the candles, the one with the black book, the one who knows things. No one said exactly what she did, but everyone knew she dealt with what most people pretend doesn't exist. I had seen many burials. I had the experience to know when a family was grieving, pretending, or secretly relieved. But the atmosphere that day was different. It wasn't sadness. It wasn't fear. It was unease. Unease that this wasn't an ending, but a beginning. When the last shovel of earth covered her coffin, I felt the ground tremble, as if something had been placed there against the will of the earth itself. It was brief, subtle, but the kind of sensation only someone who lives among graves recognizes. A displacement. In the days that followed, Sao Veridiano began to change. First came the animals, always them. Roosters crowing at 3 in the morning, cows mooing as if something poked them in the dark, dogs lying in the street, then rising suddenly to growl at nothing. Then came the small signs only those who pay attention notice. Lanterns flickering without wind, dry leaves forming perfect circles at the church door, thin scratch marks on old windows. People tried to find logical explanations, as they always do. But logic is usually the first thing to flee when darkness begins to walk on its own. And everything, absolutely everything, seemed to point to the same place, the cemetery. I returned there every morning, as I had for over 30 years, and slowly I started to notice subtle changes. A vase out of place, the lid of an old tomb creaking by itself, grass pressed down as if someone had passed through during the night. But nothing unsettled me as much as what I found on the 4th night after Lourdes's burial. I was making my rounds when I heard a sound that didn't belong to the cemetery's routine. A slow, persistent dragging, like bare feet scraping against stone. I grabbed my flashlight and followed the sound. The back gate was ajar, and I was absolutely certain I had locked it. Something had gone through. On the ground, I found a thin trail of grayish dust leading directly to Lourdes's grave. I froze. I approached cautiously, each step heavy as if the soil was trying to hold me back. The earth on the grave looked disturbed. Not much, just enough to look moved, as if it had breathed during the night. And that same dawn I had the first certainty I did not want. She was not alone in that grave. In the following days, the presence intensified. When I locked the gate at night, I felt something touch the air behind me. Not a hand, not a breeze, just the sensation of someone staring directly at the back of my neck. Sometimes it felt like the entire cemetery was holding its breath. And then the whispers began. Far away, deep within the paths, a rough, choking voice, like someone learning to speak again. I would turn, point my flashlight, nothing. But the feeling of not being alone never left. Soon the town began reporting strange things. Children crying, saying a woman called their names outside their windows. People waking up with scratches on their faces. Thin shadows passing behind them in store window reflections. And everyone avoided walking past the cemetery after sunset. That's when I understood whatever had returned was not Lourdes. It was something that came clinging to her last breath. But the worst night was the 8th. I was alone in my house when I heard 3 slow knocks on the door. Knock, pause, knock, pause, knock. I stood up slowly. I don't know why I went. Maybe because certain things cannot be avoided. I opened the door. Nothing. But there were footprints on the floor. Narrow, wet footprints entering my house. I slammed the door shut. The silence inside became so heavy it felt like it filled my lungs. I spent the entire night sitting in a kitchen chair, staring at the door without blinking. When the sun rose, I knew I had to go to the cemetery. It was the only place where this could be resolved. I took an oil lamp, a shovel, and a courage I wasn't sure belonged to me. I sat beside Lourdes's grave and waited. The first thing to change was the air. It grew denser, as if gravity had increased. Then came the murmur, like a bundle of voices tied inside a box. And then the darkness moved. It had no defined shape. It was like a shadow aware it was being watched, and amused by it. It approached slowly, dragging a coldness that didn't touch the skin. It touched from within. And with a voice that seemed to come from beneath the earth, it said, "You guarded the door. Now you must open it." I wanted to run, scream, pray words I no longer remembered. But when I tried to move my legs, they would not respond. The oil lamp went out. Everything became a living void. And then I felt something grab my arm. Long, thin, sharp nails scraping my skin as if trying to pull something out of me. Not me, but something I carried. I don't remember anything else, only waking outside the cemetery gate, face down, deafened by the sound of my own heartbeat. On my arm, 5 deep parallel marks, like fingers of someone who was never buried. I never returned to the cemetery. City Council replaced me, but none of the new caretakers lasted more than 15 days. They say the gate opens by itself at night, that a woman...
They say the gate opens by itself at night, that a woman hums softly among the tombs, and that anyone who looks for more than a few seconds swears they see shadows that don't match the bodies buried there. But I know the truth. The gate locks from the outside, but inside nothing holds, because gates only close the path of the living, never of those still learning to return. If you want more stories like this, stories that may be warnings, memories, or debts the night comes to collect, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and watch the next one already appearing here. Thank you for staying with me. See you in the next one, if the darkness allows.